Hello guys, welcome to a new video. It's been a while. I took a small break from making these reviews, but once again I'm back and we are now here with a special episode because I'm gonna, by the way, play a guitar at some point for the first time, and I think for some of you we're probably hopefully the last time to and sing as well. So anyway, we are talking about the Beach Boys 85 album, sometimes called the Beach Boys 85, but the title is actually just The Beach Boys. This is the first album that they put out after Dennis's passing in 83, and you know, all that turmoil that happened in between the late 70s and mid 80s. It took them some time to pull this off, and I am still kind of mesmerized by the fact that they actually were able to put out in the mid 80s something as cohesive and forward looking and you know, contemporary as this album. Even though I think that with the title of the album and the cover art, they were trying to fool some poor fans to think that it's a compilation, greatest hits compilation album. My dog Hugo is, by the way, chewing a large bone over there, so excuse me for that. I hope he calms down in a minute. So, you know, anyway, yeah, there's really not that much backstory with it because it's not that well documented. This period is always glossed over in the documentaries, which is a shame because it's very interesting, and there is at least some VHS recordings from the sessions, and you know, there must be a lot of stories from behind the scenes, but there's never really been a chance for any sort of document or documentary or whatever, you know, to explore this well of stories that this album and this era has. The album was produced by Steve Levine, who was the producer of Culture Club. And this is the first time that they are using a completely outsider producer since Nick Venet in the early days. So the result is, for a lot of people, very mixed. I personally think it's a great album. I love it pretty much completely. I think the sound is fresh, and I always love it when artists step out of their comfort zones and do something new for them. And that's what the Beach Boys did with this album, and I think Steve Levine did a great job with producing it. But I know that it's the reception of this album is very controversial. Still, many fans don't like it at all. But I think the songwriting is great, and the production style is also more or less excellent. So, you know, if you like 80s music, you like this album. And for me, this album has been, for a long time, the album that I actually like to listen to a lot while driving. And you can really take any of these tunes and just add them on a 80s playlist, and it flows really well. They work really well. And even play these songs for people that don't like the Beach Boys or know about the Beach Boys, you know, younger people, you know, and you know, they don't think, wow, that's a weird track, like don't ever play that to me again. As is like with a lot of Beach Boys stuff. But you know, this is very radio friendly and, you know, party friendly. And, you know, just common people can get into this album, which is something I do appreciate. You know, it's not the style that I wish that the Beach Boys always did, but I do wish that they'd done a few more albums in this style, kind of like what the Bee Gees did in the 80s. And this is sort of very similar in my eyes to some of the Bee Gees 80s stuff. But, you know, yeah, this is what the cover looks like, and this is what the back cover looks like. You've heard me many times on this channel giving sort of bad rap for the album cover. It's probably my least favorite Beach Boys album cover. It took me years to find out that there's actually like a illustration of a beach like behind the typography. It's very messy to my eyes, at least. I wish that just this super corny 80s, you know, group photo was instead the album cover. Like, as corny as it is, I think it's still better than what we got over here. And Brian looks super cool over there, and obviously Carl, and yeah. So, and Al is like straight out of Miami Vice. He's so cool over here. And I actually like this idea that they have the dedication for Dennis right over here at the back cover. It's very touching. And if you, well, it's not a gatefold, so we can't open it up, but we can pull out the inner sleeve. And I think it's hilarious that, well, it's really cool that it has all the liner notes, you know, and the lyrics, and it lists who plays what instruments and so on. I think, yeah, it lists them like on each track, which is super cool. But I find it hilarious that they have over here a few pictures and a note saying that these are the winners of the Keeping the Summer Alive photo contest. And, you know, I can just imagine these people attending some sort of Keeping the Summer Alive photo contest in 1980 and then having to wait for 5 years to find out like the results or something. I don't know the story behind this, but it's hilarious. And I think this is kind of weird that they have a picture of some women and little girls with like letters attached to their butts, you know, on a beach. Like it's kind of weird. Okay, whatever. So, all right. Brian plays a lot of cool synthesizers on this one. So, you know, I love personally that 80s Yamaha sound. There's a lot of Yamaha DX1. I think there's 7 too. I'm not really sure. I think Brian played. No, it's mostly DX1. Okay, but then there's like Fairlight drum programming and you know, just a lot of cool 80s instruments that I really personally love. So that's really cool. And you know, so it's very synthesizer heavy and really OG 80s synth sounding, and that I really love it. For a lot of people that's a turn off, but I personally just love it. So anyway, let's just dive into the tracks themselves. The album opens up with Getcha Back, which is a Terry Melcher, Mike Love composition, and it is the beginning of the Terry Melcher, Mike Love duo, which is a very underrated songwriting duo in the Beach Boys catalog. I think they actually cooked up together some really cool tunes. And Getcha Back is an interesting tune because it doesn't sound like anything else on this album. The production on that one sounds to me more like Brian Wilson than Steve Levine. Apparently there's synthesizers on it and guitars and whatever, but I can only hear the programmed drumming, that cool drum beat, and saxophone, and vocals. That's all I can hear on that finished track. But apparently there's other stuff in it too. But I just always found the arrangement and the production style really interesting. It's kind of quirky. And you know, the composition itself is not too complex. There's a really cool key change at the bridge part. But otherwise, now we can get to the exciting part. I'm gonna sing and play to you a little bit. I'm not sure if these are actually the exact right chords that are on the recording, but it sounds correct to me. But anyway, the other night they were playing our song, hadn't heard it for oh so long. Took me back, darling, to that time in my car when you cried all night, 'cause we'd gone too far. And then we get to the chorus and stuff. But it's kind of simple progression, and there's just something really satisfying about it. It's not like a Brian Wilson chord progression, because I can play it with a guitar, but it's one of the rare songs that I can somewhat play on a guitar. But just the melody and the chord progression there's something melancholic about it, even though with the drums and that 80s style and the sort of doo-wop background harmonies and stuff, it's kind of upbeat. But there's something at its core, there's something very melancholic about it. And some people claim that this is about some sort of rape thing, which to me is bollocks, because I can see why some people might interpret the lyrics like that. But to me, when you cried all night because we'd gone too far, you know, in the car, I always saw that as a representation of the situation where that woman or the girl of the song is dating with or being with somebody else, and basically they have gone too far with the main guy in the story, that sort of yeah, so she's crying because I don't know, they kissed or something in the car, because she's actually with somebody else, because all the rest of the verses too describe a situation like that. So I always saw it in that way. So I don't really know why people came up with the sort of rape thing, because I don't see it like that at all. And I love the lyrics because they are, like I said, they have that melancholy in them, and that yearning, and that sort of they almost read to me like something Brian would write, like "Love You" period or something like that. They just have that sort of bittersweet, sort of that yearning, and that wishful sort of despair almost. And yeah, just a great track and a great single. And I love Brian's vocals on it. It's so cool to hear him doing the falsetto thing in the background, and also him singing the bridge part. And yeah, it's a simple tune, but it's very effective, and it should have been a bigger hit. It was a minor hit, but anyway, it was the first lead single, and a great tune, but fairly unknown anyway. Then the next track of the album is It's Getting Late, and it is a Carl Wilson tune. I'm not sure, by the way, who he wrote it with. Maybe I need to pull off the lyric sheet. It's Getting Late is another highlight on the album. Oh, so it's written with Myrna Smith Schilling and Robert White Johnson. Okay. It's a sort of R&B soulful track, and very contemporary, and Carl's vocals just some of his best vocals are on this album. So there's not a single bad Carl lead vocal like anywhere on tape. Even him singing Drunk, God Only Knows, is pretty good. And It's Getting Late is a very strong tune. It's so catchy. I really love the sort of the hook of the song, the It's Getting Late. It's just so cool. Well, the same thing goes with most of these songs. The lyrical aspect of them is not too deep. Like lyrically, pretty much all of these tunes are kind of simple, but I like it because, excluding one tune, they all sort of fit together. So there's a cohesion with the themes of the sort of the lyrical aspect of the songs too. Some people claim that Crack at Your Love is a rewrite of Oh Lord from the Cocaine Sessions, but no, there's nothing similar with these. Anyway, but there's a rumor that they worked actually on a studio version of Oh Lord, which is I don't know, just such a gem. Like, I don't know, it's just so weird that they didn't. I don't know, like if there actually is a re-recording of that tune, I want to hear it, because it's one of the most haunting pieces of music that Brian did. But anyway, let's get back to Crack at Your Love. Well, excluding the title and that whole phrase, which it sounds just wrong, with the crack word attached to love. I don't know, it just makes me think something else than what it's meaning. But otherwise, I actually love the lyrics, and I think it's one of the strongest tracks on the album. Al's vocals on it are top notch, and I just love Brian's part at the end. That lonely nights, lonely days, I'm reaching out for you in my mind. It is so haunting and beautiful, and his vocals are so soulful on that part. And that track has that cool sort of that bass thing, that sort of kind of like a, what you call that, like a sort of bass blade with thumb, this sort of dung 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 thing. It's just so cool. It's so 80s, but all the synthesizer work on it is so cool. And I love it that actually Brian did play most of these synthesizer stuff on this track. So anyway, it is cool. It is super cool. Fourth track, once again a strong song. Maybe, I don't know, written by Carl Wilson, Myrna Smith Schilling, Steve Levine, and Julian Lindsay. I have no idea who is Julian Lindsay, but maybe, I don't know. Features Gary Moore on guitar, and it's a very soaring lead guitar. He plays it throughout the song, so it's not just a one little snippet of a solo, but he actually just lets it roar throughout the whole track. And once again, just a super strong track, and sounds something straight out of Miami Vice, or something. It is just so cool. And once again, Carl Wilson's lead vocals. The thing with this album is it's just very cohesive and strong, and sort of the strong aspects of each song are sort of similar to every song, So it's kind of hard to pinpoint with each track what makes that particular song stand out, because, the songwriting, at least up until this point on the album, is, high up, and the performances, vocals, and the production, everything is just top notch. And lyrics are cohesive, and yeah, maybe, I don't know, once again a highlight on the album. She Believes in Love Again is a song solely by Bruce Johnston, and in my opinion it might be Bruce Johnston's second best song, at least like with the Beach Boys. The best being, I don't know why I'm actually holding this up. I usually hold up the album cover, but you don't need to see this all the time. Excluding that, or the first being Disney Girls. But She Believes in Love Again just has a super cool. It's a really nice change of pace, because all the first 4 tracks have basically been rockers. So She Believes in Love Again is a power ballad, and Bruce delivers this this raspy vocal. He sounds so cool, something that he never really did on any other recording. And then when Carl comes in with the part, the chorus part, She Believes in Love Again, She Believes in Me, it's so beautiful and so perfection. Highly underrated tune. And then you flip the record and you get California Calling, written by Alan Jardine and Brian Wilson. And this is the only song on the album that I think, I actually like it. It kind of is similar to Kona Coast on MIU, so it's one of these sort of nostalgic, let's look back. We used to do the surf thing, now we do this thing, now we're kind of old, we're middle-aged, but, so I don't think there's nothing wrong in writing a song like that, in like, I don't know, every 5 years or so, because the Beach Boys did have that background of, surf music, everybody knows that. So, I don't think there's nothing wrong with it, but the song is so out of place on this album, because this album otherwise is so forward-looking, contemporary. It just doesn't need a song like this, even though I actually do like it. I like it much more than Kona Coast. I think it's a strong lead vocal performance by Mike and Al, and Ringo Starr from the Beatles plays the drums on it, even though it doesn't sound anything like Ringo's playing. Doesn't even sound like a human playing the drums on it, but anyway, and apparently Ringo doesn't remember anything about it. So, but, my favorite part is when our favorite surfing song comes on, we always let them know it's totally rad. It's just so corny, but I always have to sing along to that, because I just think it's so fun. And there's really nothing wrong in having such a fun song here and there. But it should have been just a B-side of a single, like B-side of Getcha Back or something. It should not have been on this album, because it's so out of place. So, anyway, let's move on. Passing Friend is a song then written by George O'Dowd and Roy Hay. I don't know who Roy Hay is, but George O'Dowd is Boy George from Culture Club. And he's a great songwriter. And Passing Friend is a, okay tune. It has a really cool Carl Wilson lead vocal. He completely saves the track. But it's a tad too long. I do really love the lyrics. It's kind of, sad and poetic lyric. And kind of like a melancholic tune. But, it's not a bad tune. And I think it fits the album, but I think it should have been trimmed a little bit. Song 3, track 3 on side 2 is I'm So Lonely, and this is the sort of the first solo Brian Wilson composition on the album, even though it does have a songwriting credit for Landy too. But I'm So Lonely, Starts off with a super cool sax solo, very cheesy, but I love it. And yeah, it just has that Brian magic once again. His vocal is so soulful. It's kind of a fun tune too, even though the lyrics are very sad. It's kind of like something out of Love You. It has that despair and that emotion. But there's just something kind of funny with the tune. I think it's the sax and the production. It's touching and kind of funny at the same time, which is the exact reason why I love the tune so much. It's kind of really short and kind of simple, lyrically at least. It's very Brian Wilson. There's really not much else about it. It's not like one of Brian's best compositions, by no means, but you know, it's a cool tune and I love it. Then it's followed with Where I Belong, which is written by Carl Wilson and Robert White Johnson. And Where I Belong is, for a lot of people, the best song on the album. For me, it's you know, one of the highlights for sure. The only really like a little nitpick that I have for Where I Belong is the lyrical side. Parts of the lyrics just kind of are a bit too cheesy for me, because the composition itself and that whole production with that super cool percussion and that those drums, and it's so powerful and so soulful and sad. It has that huge emotion, but then it's sort of underlined with these kind of cheesy lyrics like don't need to search no more exotic islands now that I found you right where I belong. Never been as much as at home as I am. It's like that exotic islands thing. It's like, oh, come on. Like, and you know that you are my northern star that navigates me home. Okay, that's all right. But the exotic islands part is, because that's the sort of the climax of the song. And I think there should be some, you know, a bit more stronger lyrics on that part. Otherwise, it's a phenomenal tune. The second to last track on the album, then, well, if you know, go with the track listing of the LP, is I Do Love You by Stevie Wonder. And this track, I don't really know what it is about this. It's not a bad song, but for me, it is, with California Calling, my least favorite on the album. And I think it kind of sounds out of place. It just sounds too much like Stevie Wonder to me. And he played most of the instruments too. But it just sounds like a Stevie Wonder tune. Well, it's cool to have the Beach Boys singing Stevie Wonder. And you know, I respect Stevie Wonder and all. But I just don't think it fits the album. And you know, it's not like one of Stevie's best compositions or anything like that. It's kind of a simple tune. It being the second to last track too, it's sort of like the start of the album is so strong that you just wish that the ending would be as strong as well. So it's kind of bummer that, I don't know, it's at this position on the album when it comes to the track listing. But I do know that it actually does have a lot of fans, this track. So, you know, there you go. But personally, it's just, you know, not one of my favorites. I usually actually kind of skip it. The album then ends off, at least the vinyl version, with It's Just a Matter of Time, which is once again a Brian Wilson solo composition, with a credit also to Landy. And once again, just a groovy, soulful track. Brian really was into this tune. I love the sort of, it's once again kind of very similar to I'm So Lonely, but this is maybe even a little bit more soulful. It just has a sort of soul vibe. It's really hard to say anything else about it. I love it. It's a cool tune. Maybe would be better, I don't know, I don't want to say it would be better, but would be interesting to hear it with just a sort of demo style, like just the piano and Brian singing it just the way he sings on it on the album. I don't know, but I do love the production too. But you know, it's just so soulful. But if you are more familiar with the CD version, you know that it actually ends off with Male Ego, the infamous Male Ego. And this tune is interesting. I believe it's a Brian Wilson Mike Love song. I like the music of it. The title is weird. Lyrics are kind of bad, but you know, the music and the melody is kind of cool. I like the sort of the intro, the din din din, and then the kick drum. Dun, male ego. It's all right. Like, it's a fun tune. Though I'm happy that they left it off and sort of just added it as a bonus track to the CD, because it's not very strong, like at least not with those lyrics, and just a really weird way to close off an album, like if that actually was the closure. And for a lot of people it is the closure because they grew up with the CD version. So okay, for a lot of people it is the closure of the album. It's a really weird way to close off an album like this. I don't know what the heck they were thinking about. But that's pretty much it. One more thing that I have to say about this is that even though I love it a lot, I think it's a great album. I listen to it all the time. And it's one of those sort of only Beach Boys albums that you can really play with any day to, while other people are around you as well, kind of. Like, because younger people don't really care for the 60s sound. It's a shame, but what the heck, whatever. Most of the Beach Boys stuff is kind of depressing, and then this album is sort of like a party rock album. It's just super cool. It has that 80s sound, and they really fit to any day. You can listen to most of it on any day. So that's nice. It's sort of easy listening. But even though I love it a lot, I still feel weird about it because it just doesn't really sound like the Beach Boys. Yes, you got the 4 original members plus Bruce Johnston singing on it, and the Beach Boys always did stuff, experimental stuff with synthesizers and drum machines and so on, but it just does not sound like the Beach Boys. And I can really see why for some fans it's a problem. For me personally, it's not a problem, it's just a sort of weird thing that I always sort of think about when I listen to this. Because even if I compare the material on this one to the Still Cruisin' stuff, I kind of feel that the Still Cruisin' music and even some stuff on Summer in Paradise kind of sounds more like the Beach Boys than this album. So, there you go. But still, that being said, I think it's a very cohesive, good album. Should I even say great album, and it is highly underappreciated. People really should listen to it more and give it a new chance. But anyway, what do you think about it? Let's continue in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Hopefully see you soon again on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.